Good afternoon, ma'am. Could you tell us your name and spell your last name for the record?
Carol Hearn, Hearn.
Thank you. Your witness, Mr. Smith.
Good afternoon. How are you related to Jonathan Hearn?
I'm Jonathan Hearn's mother.
Okay. I want to take you to 2013. Where was Jonathan living at that time?
I believe he was living at a rental behind my dad's house.
Okay. So he was not living with you?
Correct.
Okay. How old was Jonathan when he moved out of your home?
I'm trying to get my dates straight. 22?
When he moved out of your home, where did he move to?
A little apartment behind my dad's house.
Okay. I'll show you a map that's been previously marked and moved into evidence. Let me approach the witness.
Please.
I'll show you what's been moved into evidence under People 17, an overhead satellite map. Do you recognize the location?
I do.
Page 2 of People 17. There is a marker over the front house of that address. Whose house is that?
That's my father's.
There is a smaller house, I guess apartment, and a garage to the rear.
Correct.
Okay. And that is where Jonathan moved to when he was 22.
Yes.
How many children do you have?
6.
Now, where is Jonathan in the order of your children? Oldest, youngest, middle?
He's second to the oldest. He has an older sister.
Okay. Now, when Jonathan moved out to this apartment, would you still see him frequently?
Semi-frequently, yes.
Do you know if he was living in the apartment that's up on People 17 in 2013?
Yes, and my mind is trying to make sure that that was so, but yes.
Okay. Now, in 2013, did you speak with Jonathan about Sabrina Limon?
Yes, but I did not at that point. This date is a little clearer to me. In 2013, in April, I believe, he had referenced a situation that he wanted me to pray for. He said, "Mom, I'm going to be calling somebody's husband."
Sustained.
The conversation you're talking about with Jonathan, did you memorialize that in some fashion? Did you write it down?
I did.
Okay, what did you write it down in?
A prayer journal. Journal.
And that prayer journal, did you write date of entry or?
Yes.
Okay. So when did you make the entry into your prayer journal?
You actually have a page. It was April. I don't have the exact date.
Okay.
2013.
Okay. And you wrote that in your prayer journal because your son was requesting some prayer?
Correct.
Now, what you wrote in your prayer journal, was that in reference to Sabrina Limon?
I did not know that was Sabrina Limon at that time.
Okay. So you didn't have a name attached with the prayer?
No, sir.
When did you first meet, or have you ever met Sabrina Limon?
I met her sometime after the murder.
Ms. Hearn? Pull that microphone, it'll move. There you go. That way you don't have to. Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. Go ahead.
Where did you meet her at?
I met her at a pizza place in Apple Valley.
Prior to Jonathan's arrest, how many times did you see Sabrina?
I didn't know it was her, but I saw her, my kids saw her in a Costco one time, and
Your Honor, object, calls for hearsay, move to strike.
Sustained, you can come at it a different way, Mr. Smith. Go ahead.
Just speaking for you, how many times did you personally see Sabrina Limon after her husband passed?
once.
One time. When you were at the restaurant in Apple Valley, did you know who you were speaking with? I mean, did you have context why you were there, who you were with?
Yes. I don't know how much to say at this point or not, but I knew that my son had sort of, how do you say, appreciated this woman who, and there's like more to the story, but mind you, in my mind, my son Jonathan and Sabrina were only friends. That's the only relation I knew of them. But when this murder had happened and I became aware that she had lost her husband, I felt terrible for her. I sent her a sympathy card. I was sending Bible verses to her anonymously just to encourage her as a young widow with children. I was reaching out to her, and I assumed that when we all met at this restaurant, it was for me to put a face to the woman that I was, ministering to, in a sense. So it was sometime after the murder, and Jonathan and her were not close to one another. You wouldn't have known that anything was between the two of them. Very benign. It was just like a meeting. My children were there, and her children were there, and Jonathan was there, and we just had pizza.
So you had the one in-person meeting.
Yes,
You sent some items to Miss Limon,
I did.
but that's the extent of the contact.
That's the extent.
Now, up on the photograph, page 2, people 17, were you present when the residence was searched November 18, 2014? As in, did you go to the house?
No.
Now, were you present when the house was subsequently searched this year, 2017?
There was different dates that people came. I was there for one of them. I don't remember how many other times. There were people from our family there when they would come to get things, collect things, or look for things.
Okay. Now, there is a garage attached to the apartment?
Correct?
Okay. Whose garage is it?
My dad's.
Okay. What is kept in there?
My dad's 95, lots of things. He has tools, he has boxes, he has memorabilia, he's got just a lot of things in there.
So that is used by your father for storage.
Yes.
Now, the apartment, who occupied the apartment between November 18, 2014 and this year?
Nobody has.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Hearn.
Good afternoon.
Mrs. Hearn, Jonathan was homeschooled, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and that was that by you?
Yes, sir.
Or were you the primary?
I was the primary teacher.
And as a part and parcel of his education, as he was being homeschooled, was religious instruction.
Yes, sir.
And Jonathan was very astute and very knowledgeable with regards to the scripture, is that right?
I would say fairly, yes.
And throughout growing up, he, through your teachings and everything, he was, how do I put it, fairly devout Christian, is that right?
It seemed to be, yes.
Okay. Well, did he appear to be concealing things from you with regards to his beliefs or faith? Or did you honestly believe that he believed the teachings that he received?
I believe that he received the teachings and was going along, and I actually, hindsight's 20/20, but he showed a lot of character. For instance, we used to go to a church for about 25 years, a large church, and then we went about 10 years to another place, but not at the time, hadn't I gone 10 years. But when he lived with us, he joined us at, when we went. And so the newer church that we were at, smaller church, they have communion more often than we did at the other one. And I had noted that he hadn't taken communion. And I just kind of, I mean, there's some people would feel as if you're a Christian, you can take communion. Some people would feel as if you know in your heart that you've wronged somebody, that you really probably shouldn't take communion. You should go fix it with that person and, get your wrongs righted, fix your lies, or whatever it is. You take care of those things before you take communion. And so I didn't know what was going on in his life. I didn't question him, but there were about 3 different times I noted that he hadn't really taken communion. And when I look back, I think, well, those were times that he may have been in this relationship. To what extent, I don't know. And he actually, when he moved out, he would go to the church that we originally used to go to for 25 years. And so he was still in church and whatnot. I didn't see him, in that capacity. But now that I look back, I think, well, he probably was not taking communion because he didn't have things right with the Lord, and he knew it in his heart. And so he didn't want to mess that up, kind of thing. So
Let me ask you this. How many, before you met Sabrina, had you met any of the women that he was seeing since he moved out of your residence?
when Jonathan grew up, when we were raising Jonathan, we emphasized sort of an importance of kind of getting yourself financially and emotionally ready for a relationship. So we encouraged him. I mean, we didn't discourage him from dating and whatnot, but we encouraged him to try to get his ducks in a row kind of thing before he'd go on and take on a family just for the sake of the family, and to help that kind of be a stability factor, something you wouldn't have to worry about. So,
I'm gonna stop you right there, ma'am.
okay,
I'm gonna stop you only because what you're answering is not exactly responsive to what I asked.
I'm sorry.
Before you met Sabrina
Mm-hmm.
and after Jonathan, this is the other question. I'm sorry, my hearing isn't what it used to be. As I've gotten older, it's gotten a little worse. When did Jonathan move out of your home?
My mind is still scrambling a little bit. I want to say 2012.
Okay, that's what I thought I heard, but I wanted to be sure
Yeah.
because it almost sounded like 2002, so that sounded a little bit early.
Okay.
So he moved out of your residence in 2012. Between the time he moved out in 2012 until you met Sabrina, which would have been in 2014, had you met any of the women that he was dating?
I knew people. I don't. Dating is kind of a loose. I mean, friends with and doing things with, and
Well,
I don't remember the dates exactly. I mean, there was so and so, and there was so and so we saw over here or whatnot. But it's hard for me to answer exactly. Like, he didn't have this a steady girlfriend or something that was over our house and all that.
Okay. After he moved out, there was no women that you were aware of that he was involved in a romantic relationship with from the time he moved out till when you met Sabrina Limon?
Your definition of romantic is what definition?
Someone he was seeing on a regular basis and was involved with that individual.
I would say no.
Okay. During that time that he moved out to when you met Sabrina Limon, had you met any women that he was seeing on a regular basis?
I wouldn't classify regular basis. So
You can't say
I
one
can't,
way or the other?
I can't say no.
Okay. So you mentioned an incident where you were speaking with Jonathan in April of 2013, I believe. Is that right?
I think so.
And he asked you to pray for him.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's something you noted in your journal.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But you don't know with any degree of certainty what he was asking you to pray for him about. Would that be accurate?
No, sir.
Okay. And now, in hindsight, 2020, you assume it had to do with Ms. Limon. Is that right?
No, sir. I don't assume. He told me in, I want to say over a year later, he referenced the incident where I had.
Ma'am, no question pending. Okay. You're now, and I'm going to object and move to strike as a calling for hearsay, Your Honor.
Sustain, to be strict.
Thank you. At the time you wrote the note down in your journal, you did not know what Jonathan was asking you to pray for him about, right?
No, I did know what he wanted me to pray about. I didn't know who involved, the woman's name that was involved.
Okay, so you knew he was asking you to pray about a woman. he was
Correct.
involved with.
Oh, he was asking me to pray because he was going to be speaking to a woman's husband about being too close to the wife, and that's why I had that written down. So I knew there was a husband he was going to be saying sorry to. I knew there was a wife person there that he had been too close to, but I didn't have a name.
And you assume now that because of that information you received from Jonathan, that had to be Ms. Limon.
No, he told me it was Mrs. Limon.
Move to strike. Your Honor, non-responsive, and he calls for hearsay.
Objection sustained, to be stricken.
Ms. Hearn,
Yes, sir.
at the time you made the notation, you did not know who he was asking you to pray for him about.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, you've been to your father's property, I'm sure, a number of times. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it's Hesperia's kind of what we call desert area. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And your father's property is got other homes on either side of him, right?
That is correct.
Okay, both to the east and the west.
Yes, sir.
And between your father's property and the property to the west, there's a fence. Is that right?
Correct.
And it's a chain link fence about 3 foot high, thereabouts?
No, sir, it's a taller one.
About 4 foot?
I'm going to say 5 feet, but I'm not sure.
It's a chain link fence you can see
Correct.
through, though.
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's nothing that can block your view looking over to the neighbor's yard on the west side, is that right?
No, there are trees. There's a number of, I think they're Aleppo pine trees. Some are dead, some are not, that can block the view.
Some areas.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And also to the east, the property, there's another home and property next to it, right?
Yes, sir.
And a chain link fence over there.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right.
That's exhibit H, mark next to one.
H is in hotel.
Ms. Hearn, in February of this year, you wrote a card to Ms. Limon, is that right?
I don't remember when it was, but I did write her once. Yes.
Showing what's been previously marked as Defense Exhibit H.
Mhm.
Is this the card you sent to Ms. Limon?
Yes, sir.
And that was in February 21st, I believe it's stated, is that correct?
It is correct, yes, sir.
And that's of this year?
Yes, sir.
In that you wrote the following.
Could I see it 1 second?
Certainly, Your Honor.
Jerry, please, thank you. All right, record reflect, I've looked at People's H. It'll be admitted. Proceed, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Hearn, you, in this card, you wrote the following. Sabrina, please know I am praying for you. I do not know what to think or believe about what is going on, but I know you could use prayer. May God help you to see himself clearly. And then you signed it, Carol, is that right?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, what's the date on that?
It is February 21st, 2017, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Now, this is after you found out that your son had admitted to the police that he actually killed Sabrina Limon's husband.
That is correct, sir.
And you indicated that you're, at least from what I'm reading this card and interpreting this card, you're saying that you don't know what to think or believe. Is that right?
That's correct.
So would it be safe to say that your son, who you bore and raised, was successful in hiding from you the fact that he killed Robert Limon?
Yes, sir.
He deceived you that entire time. Would that be accurate?
Not totally accurate.
Well, he deceived you from the time when he was arrested until he confessed to the police that he had not been involved in Robert's death.
That's not entirely true. He had written some letters home that, as much as I did not believe my son would do this, there was some wording that made me have a suspicion his hands were not clean. And I believe he was trying to prepare us, because in a letter he told us that the truth would come out at his trial.
And at his trial?
At his trial, yes. He was going to be telling the truth, and there were some other things in letters that made me think he could have been involved in some way, just in some capacity.
But until you received those letters, he successfully deceived you, right? Those
I would
clues
have to
came.
answer yes.
And this is someone you've known his entire life.
Yes, sir. Although, sir, Jonathan, my mother had a major stroke in 2013 that left her as an invalid. And our family cared for her around the clock for a long time. And life was very focused on my mother, helping my then 92-year-old father. And, there was just, she was supposed to be moved every 2 hours. She could not eat. She was on a feeding tube. She could not move except for her head and her arm. We had hospice coming in. We had trying to keep business phones going. We had people that wanted to visit her. We had correspondence to do. She was a very involved in our community person. I was giving email updates.
I'm going to stop you. I'm sorry. I understand. I am sorry. Believe me. I've been there. I've gone through that myself. And I understand your focus was not entirely on John.
It was not, sir. That's right. And he was working overtime shifts. He was a new firefighter, so he was extra time. He'd work days on end. He'd go out on strike teams, whatever it was. I wasn't really concerned. I had a number of other children that I was tending to as well, 2 households.
I understand. When Jonathan was growing up, were there incidents such as him making bombs?
You may call it that. He took a biology class, and they did chemistry and stuff like that. And I remember one silly time. I wouldn't say no, not a bomb. He was goofing around with something, and he ended up burning his hand accidentally because something went off. But it was not by any means any big
Was
deal.
law enforcement at all involved in?
No, sir. No, it was just a little, and I can't remember, but I think he took, how they have those little things you buy at the dollar store that might have gunpowder or something in them, and he did something and it backfired. I don't really remember the incident other than his hand getting burned.
And you indicated that you, once Jonathan moved out, you only saw him because he was working so much. You were busy with your mother. You saw him only semi-frequently. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So with regards to his life, once he left your home, you weren't fully aware of all of his activities. Would that
That's
be accurate?
correct. That's correct.
Were you aware of whether or not Jonathan was seeing any other married women or having any type of relationship with any other married women other than Ms. Limon once he moved out of your residence?
No, I was not aware of that.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Thank you, Mrs. Smith.
Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Ms. Hearn, you referenced that you would write the dates down in your journal. I have a copy of what we got from your journal. If you could review that to refresh your memory as to the date. If I can see it, counsel. Thank you. If you could just review those documents, if it would help you to refresh your memory relating to the date. If you could just read it to yourself.
So I'm concerned only on the date of it, or?
Yes, I'm just going to inquire if you, based on refreshing your recollection, you remember the date that you wrote the entry.
Yes, April 9th, 2013.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
So Terry, anything?
No, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
All right. Ms. Hearn, you can step down. Thank you very much. Subject to recall, counsel?
Yes, sir.
Stay in contact with the prosecutor in case we need you back, but you're free to go.